Running on Air from 11:7, Chapter 8. Hermione and Ron are aghast. "You cannot break up with Ginny 2 days before Christmas," Hermione says angrily, putting a mug in front of Harry and sloshing tea over the coffee table.
"What were you thinking?"
Ron adds.
"Mum's going to completely lose it. She's already knitted matching Christmas jumpers."
"And she told me she's expecting you to announce the wedding date," Hermione snaps.
"Oh, come on," Harry protests. "We've been engaged for 3 years now and dating for 7.
"That's the whole point. Molly said, what better time than your 7-year anniversary? 7 is considered a very lucky number among wizards and witches, Harry. Molly has her heart set on another wedding. She's already designing invitations."
"Oh, no,"
Ron says with horror.
"Mum's at the stage where she's designing invitations."
"It gets worse," Hermione says ominously. "I caught her making a list of possible grandchild names." Ron slowly sinks into an overstuffed armchair, clutching his glass of fire whiskey.
"Harry,"
he says,
"we shared many adventures. While our friendship was tested at times, I treasure the time we spent together. You were a terrific bloke, and you will be sadly missed by many."
"It's not that bad," Harry says.
"I mean, Jenny's not devastated or anything. It was really quite mutual." "Doesn't matter. Mum's got visions of weddings and grandchildren."
Ron takes a swig of his fire whiskey.
"I knew a bloke up Norfolk way. Does fake passports quite cheap. I'll give you his details."
Harry looks at Hermione.
"Would you listen to him? Merlin can't tell him it's not that bad."
Hermione sips her butterbeer and says nothing. Harry sits in Ron's old bedroom, poking miserably at a Christmas pudding. The pudding giggles and runs away. He sighs and looks up as Ron and Hermione come through the doorway.
"Is it over?" "Well, not yet. Mum's on the 5th sherry now."
"The good news is," Hermione says anxiously, "she's stopped shouting."
"Well, yeah, now she's crying into mince pies. Can't make out much, but apparently Celeste was always on her top girls' names list."
Harry's indignant.
"Oh, get out. I wouldn't call a kid Celeste anyway." "Oh, yeah. Percy said it was a terrible name, too. Then they all started arguing, and George turned Percy's ears into turnips, and Bill couldn't stop laughing. Said Percy called him a long-haired pillow, and—"
Ron winces as there is a thump from downstairs, followed by laughter, and moments later, an outraged squeal. "Well, every family has little arguments at Christmas," Hermione says with determination, upending a small bag of sweets and pastry treats. "No reason why we can't enjoy the festivities still." Harry reaches for a gingerbread newt and bites off a foot. The newt looks displeased.
"I've still got the contact details of that Norfolk bloke,"
Ron says. Despite it all, Harry can't help but smile. It's a reprieve at least, and he's always grateful for Hermione and Ron granting him these moments, fleeting scenes of amusement and light smiles, a chance to surface for air. Because all day he's still thinking of the look of agony on Draco's face as he disappeared again, as if a crucio had just been cast on him. And he doesn't feel like he should be here, celebrating with friends and family, unwrapping gifts and eating sweets, while, somewhere in the world, Draco is drifting alone and, in all probability, seriously hurt or exhausted. Hermione catches him deep in thought a few times and frowns at him, and Ron takes him aside.
"Remember what they said in aura training? You can't spend all your time thinking about the case, or you're going to burn out, and you won't be able to help anyone anymore."
So Harry does his best to enjoy the day, and in the evening he flees to the apartment. Ginny, left behind due to an apparently very absorbing conversation with Fleur, will no doubt return as well. For now, the apartment is completely dark, save for the small Christmas tree. It's just sitting at the end of the corner, dusted in tiny lights. Draco is standing beside it, the faint glow of light dancing over his face like clouds drifting across the sky. Behind him, through the window, Harry can see the London night illuminated. There's the lines of trains moving slowly from station to station. High above, the crescent moon is struggling through the misty winter night.
"You're here?"
Harry says slowly, testing the words just to see if they'll fall and shatter. Draco looks at him. He looks terrible, Harry thinks. Thin and exhausted. Shadows beneath his eyes. Clearly these efforts to appear are taking their toll.
"Going away is easy. Coming home is hard."
Draco opens his mouth and speaks, but the words are silent. Harry bites his lip.
"I can't hear you,"
he says quietly, and Draco stops speaking. His shoulders slump slightly. He walks towards Harry, and the moonlight filters through him like he's no more substantial than water. And Harry realizes that Draco is struggling just to exist here. Whatever is left of his strength is not enough to speak, not enough to appear solid. He's like a ghost. When he's just a few steps away from Harry, he reaches out, and Harry responds without thinking, outstretching his own arm. His fingers grasp at nothing. Draco fades completely. Outside, in the streets below, someone is whistling again. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Boxing Day. The city will be crowded with shoppers, fashionable couples sashaying along the luxury labels of Bond Street, young families and bargain hunters caught up in the masses at Westfield. Harry stands on the balcony, watching the people hurry below. Earlier in the day, the streets were eerily empty, but now, in the last remaining hour of daylight, people are beginning to trickle home from their trips.
"Close the door," Jenny says. "It's freezing out there."
She stands in the middle of the kitchen, wearing jeans and her latest Christmas jumper. Her hair is unbrushed, and Harry finds it reassuring somehow. It's easier to talk to Jenny when she's like this, instead of dressed in her full Quidditch uniform, dashing away to a debriefing or another practice. She wears her uniform like other people wear armor. Harry steps inside and closes the door. They say it might snow next week, although it rarely snows in London. The city moves and breathes like an enormous beast, breathing in the lives of 8 million people and turning snow to sleet with the sheer heat of life contained within. Jenny paces around the kitchen, then puts the kettle on.
"Do you think," she says at last, "we could fix this?"
Harry puts his hand in his pocket. The Renault's key nudges against his fingers, and there is something reassuring about the cool, smooth plastic.
"No."
Jenny looks away.
"I thought we could," she says, "until the morning after, when I left for Quidditch practice. We just broken up, and I still got up and went to practice. And I realized that it's because, to me, practice is more important than trying to fix this. My career is my first priority."
She looks up at him, and it feels like they're being honest with each other for the first time in ages. And Harry is suddenly so sick of wearing masks and reciting from scripts someone else wrote. And so he speaks the truth. The thought that he's kept hidden for so long during the last year of their relationship.
"Sometimes I think all we have in common is the war. We were so different back then, and I didn't know if either of us would live to see the end. It was easy to fall in love."
Then, later on, when we became ordinary people, our old selves faded quietly away. He wonders if he spoke the truth too directly, but Ginny doesn't seem offended. She tilts her head, thinking.
"I never thought about it that way,"
she says slowly.
"I suppose you're right. Falling in love is easy. Falling out of love, you don't really notice it until it's too late."
"Going away is easy. Coming home is hard." They finish their tea in silence. Then Ginny says she's meeting up with Wanda, the team seeker, and her best friend.
"Telling her about us?"
Harry asks, and Ginny nods.
"I just want someone to talk to besides you,"
she adds, and then she winces.
"Oh, I didn't mean it like that." "It's all right, I understand."
Harry hesitates.
"I've got to talk to someone too. I won't be back until tomorrow."
"All right. Tell Ron and Hermione I said hello." Then he pauses, then turns and leaves. Harry stands alone in the apartment for a long moment, then departs too. When Harry was very small, he used to think cars were like spaceships and they could take him anywhere. He would race along the Milky Way, slip along the curves of the moon, run along the exploding stars, and come to rest among the cold, glittering nebulas. The universe never ends. He drives on, following the winding roads and highways until they feel like an infinite loop, a Möbius strip of rain-dark asphalt in winter-bare fields. It takes him 6.5 hours to reach Helston. He stops in Launceston to buy fuel and ends up spending an hour poring over the maps in the glove box. There's 1,000 journeys marked along these pages, and he wonders if Draco took all the trips so carefully traced along the map. The flat pastoral farmland soon gives way to deep valleys and rising cliffs as he nears the coastline. The air becomes cool and crisp, a promise of the chilly ocean, and he turns the heating up. He goes through Helston to the small parish of Llandwetnag. It proves to be a collection of stone cottages and a small church with a kissing gate. The roads are deserted. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and he imagines the villagers are all sleeping in their warm homes, fires burning low in their grates. He follows the signs until he's slowly crawling along a narrow road toward the Lizard Lighthouse. He can hear the distant rush of waves, breaking in a ceaseless rhythm against the cliff. Harry parks the car and pauses for a moment. It's in the heart of winter, and he's in the middle of nowhere at 2 a.m., listening for the sound of a wave breaking, listening for the sound of another human voice, listening to the wind blow southerly, 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 from the edge of the mainland Britain, listening to it whistle through the cracks in the rocks and the secret hollows and coves along the coast. He opens the car door and steps out. The wind is fierce now, nipping at his face, lashing at his hair, snapping at his clothes. He holds his wand aloft and whispers, "Lumos." A soft blue glow lights the path before him. There is a sign saying Southwest Coastal Walk, and he follows the pointing arrow. The wild winter seas roar now, and the wind is strong and bitterly cold, sweeping straight along the Celtic Sea and licking the crests of the waves before bringing a salted sting to Harry's skin. Even with the wand light, the path is treacherous in the wet weather and dark night, and Harry nearly falls a few times. If Draco's here, surely he's laughing. The sound of the sea grows ever closer. The wind is unrelenting now, catching a hold of Harry's clothes and yanking like a demanding child. It reddens his face with sharp slaps of sea air. At last, Harry's reached the edge of a cliff. The dark waves churn around the rocks below, the sea foam the same color as a stormy December sky. Somewhere out there, in the inky black horizon, the light of a ship winks as it cuts through the ocean. Harry edges closer to the cliff. He looks up. It's a half-moon tonight. The same lunar plane as when he first dreamed of the Cornish coast. It's a long walk back to the car alone, and a longer drive back to London, but Harry thinks he could get used to long trips. New Year's comes and goes. Harry moves out of the apartment on the 2nd of January. Hermione and Ron set up the guest room in their house. He solves one of his cases on the 5th of January, when he tracks the missing man to eastern France, where the man has new life, and, unfortunately for his distraught wife in England, a new family. But he's always elsewhere. His mind is ghosting along highways and winding roads. It's drifting around corners and hearing the roar of the sea and the song of winter's chill. He wakes at 3 a.m. every night, dreaming of crumbling cliffs and a voice crying out. He sits in a Renault Megane and stares at nothing for hours. Are we getting closer, or just getting lost? Lucius Malfoy. Those had been Draco's words to Harry the last time they spoke.
My father.
In incepto finis est. Harry flips through the file, stares at those 2 words he wrote so casually 7 months ago. Likes circles. He needs a memory from Narcissa, he knows it. He's been patient, but she's not telling. How do you extract a memory from someone who doesn't want to give it? He straightens up. No, it would never work. Well, it worked once before. When Harry arrives home from work, he makes a beeline for the guest room and dumps his cloak there, then returns and sits at the dining table looking at Hermione. She's enjoying a cup of tea and seems deeply absorbed in a book, but when she notices him there, she slowly looks up. "Oh, no," she says warningly. "You want something? Possibly illegal, certainly difficult, and definitely dangerous."
Wouldn't happen to know any good potion brewers, would you?
Hermione shuts her book and levels him with a look. Good potion brewers or shady potion brewers?
Good. Really good.
Good enough to brew, for example, Veritas serum?
Of course not, I'm not a barbarian,
Harry says.
Well, I was thinking. Good enough to brew Felix Felicis.
Hermione's gaze softens. Well, at least it's legal, she says, returning to her book. Ron wanted to know if I knew anything about a sense of insanity last week. Well, really.
So, can you get it?
I might. It will cost you, though.
How much?
If you take out a second mortgage, it should be all right. Hermione glances up and catches Harry's expression. That was a joke, Harry. It is very dear, though.
Just let me know when you find a potioneer and I'll do the rest.
Is this for work? Hermione asks after a long moment. Harry, you know the potion doesn't work like that. It doesn't miraculously give you all the answers. It just offers path to the best possible outcome. And the side effects can be very dangerous.
I know.
Harry looks away. Hermione sighs. It's a desperate last resort, Harry.
I know.
He repeats. There might be a high price. But whatever the price, he thinks, it will be worth it. To be continued.